above the Earth grouped together with no explanation. These clips show what's being described as swarms of UFOs. Earlier this year in Seoul in South Korea, a crowd gathers to stare up beyond the skyscrapers into the sky. A group of objects hover above the centre of the city for a few seconds, then they disappear. In Mexico 3 years earlier, a very similar sight. Clearer this time, the group of white objects are baffling the people below.
Mira las esferas, son un chorro, aquí arriba, ¿ya las viste? Qué maravilla, ¿verdad?
Zooming in still closer, we find that there are even smaller groupings. Over New York City last year, what looks at first like the vapor trails of aeroplanes. But closer inspection reveals there are dozens of apparent objects, seemingly arranged in some sort of formation. Just before the footage comes to an end, one of the objects appears to come much closer. Lastly, this could at first be another UFO swarm. It's in fact a group of helicopters. But the aircraft enthusiast behind this clip from Russia soon realised that following this group of flying objects was something he couldn't explain.
So you're going to have 6 retired members of the military now at the National Press Club in D.C. They're going to say these incidents go back to 1967, 1980. Now, they don't have any recent episodes. That could be because these gentlemen have all been retired for some time, so they haven't been in the loop. But they all say the same thing, that when they noticed these situations happening, they were all told, you cannot say anything about them.
Which is good
well, the
for
United
us.
Nations knows that they're going to be doing this press conference today because now they're going to appoint a Earth contact ambassador for those aliens. Her name is Moslin Othman, and she's going to be known as the leader of the Office for Outer Space Affairs.
But now the United Nations is getting ready for a contact with aliens from outer space. This is Moslin Othman. She's out of Malaysia. She will be planet Earth's first interstellar diplomat.
NASA's new Kepler spacecraft detecting hundreds of planets that they believe have the potential to support alien life forms. It is studying more than 150,000 stars, and that's just in one small patch of the sky, okay? If the 700-plus candidates are actually planets, it could triple the number of known planets in deep space.
Hubble detects many of the basic chemicals needed for life. Sodium, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. During the spring thaw and the autumn rains, the climate on this Earth-like moon is balmy and comfortable. At a distance of 93 million miles from the star, roughly the same distance as Earth from the Sun, the elliptical orbit of this planet and its moon crosses an area around the star some scientists call the Goldilocks zone. The conditions here are just right for life.
50% of all Americans believe the extraterrestrial explanation accounts for these sightings. Up to as many as 90% of Americans believe the government is outright lying. The polls are unambiguous. Year after year, the same thing. In fact, if you could talk anonymously to people, even in Congress, probably 50% of members of Congress already convinced that the extraterrestrial presence explains this phenomena. Disclosure is at hand. It is very close, and the American people need to prepare themselves very soon for an announcement from our government that there is, in fact, an extraterrestrial presence engaging this planet and the human race.
As UFO videographers and investigators around the world continue to document that strange, unidentified craft are navigating in our skies, as well as in outer space, the mass public and even former U.S. presidents appear convinced that UFOs are real. Is it an above top secret truth that extraterrestrials are observing us from their technologically advanced spaceships?
It's not like any aircraft I've ever seen. Doesn't behave like balloons, didn't look like a blimp. What was it?
It was just weird. The second you see it, you look at it and go, that's not an aircraft. What is that?
While many people still believe that a flying saucer from beyond Earth crashed near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, the United States Air Force still officially denies it with what they call their final report. In it, they conclude there was no UFO crash, and every eyewitness account of an alien body was actually a crash test dummy used in high-altitude parachute drops.
I don't think the Americans should believe anything that our government says about Roswell. How could we? They denied that it existed for so long, then it was a weather balloon, now it's a super secret weather balloon. Who knows what it'll be next week?
It is no coincidence that some of the past American commander-in-chiefs seem very interested in UFOs. Before he was president, Jimmy Carter witnessed the flight of a UFO and even reported it to authorities. Subsequent presidents also expressed their concern about visitors from outer space.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Interestingly, after he left the White House, Ronald Reagan confirmed he saw what he believed was an alien craft when he was governor of California from his plane and asked his pilot to follow it until it shot off into space. And when Bill Clinton was president, he publicly stated, quote, "As far as I know, an alien spacecraft did not crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. If the U.S. Air Force did recover any alien bodies, they didn't tell me about it either, and I want to know." In the 2008 U.S. presidential election, some candidates seemed very open to the possibility that UFOs exist, and one came forward with his own tale of a close encounter. As our current exploration of Mars continues with NASA rovers, perhaps one day NASA cameras will roll up to this ever-controversial structure known as the face on Mars, which many believe was created by an advanced ET civilization. Maybe when the mystery of this monument and nearby pyramid structures is solved, we will be closer to proving that alien life does in fact exist, even on planets so close to ours. But those who've chronicled the UFO evidence most to date think the ultimate proof will come from everyday people pointing cameras to the sky.
We, the people, are going to prove that this is truth. Not the scientists, not the authorities, not the military. We, hundreds or thousands of people with our cameras in our hands, are going to be able to produce the evidence that is going to be seen around the world and is going to prove that this is 554 seconds.
There's nothing on their radars on the other centers at all on that particular area, that object that's up in the air? It's up in the air. Affirmative. What's the altitude about? I don't know, probably right around 30,000 or so, and it's with a strobe, it starts from going counterclockwise, and the length is unbelievable.
Arcade 5 in the next 2 to 3 minutes, be looking off to your right side. If you see anything about 30,000 feet, one aircraft reported does something. It wasn't a weather balloon or anything. It was a long, white-looking thing with a strobe on it. Let me know if you see anything out there.
Any traffic up on Left Wing right now?
I've got some passing off here at 9 o'clock.
In the early hours of January the 20th, 1996, a number of UFOs were reported in the skies above central Brazil. Some of them were captured on home video. Then, in a bizarre twist, reports started emerging that one of these UFOs had actually crashed near the town of Virginia, and that the local military had recovered some alien bodies. For many in the UFO community, this was the most significant event since the Roswell crash of 1947.
We know we have a lot of evidence here, and there is a huge cover-up in Brazil since January 1996.
Any time that you have accounts, particularly if there are of sightings late at night, of bright lights seen very close above the ground, a lot of activity going on, what you may be dealing with is the military carrying out some sort of night manoeuvres. Now, you can have military trucks, obviously brightly illuminated with headlights and all sorts of other freestanding lights, for example. You could even have a low-flying helicopter.
So perhaps you can tell us, you were at the head of the UFO project for 3 years and you've researched other cases since.
People describe entities which are essentially grey in colour, about 3.5 or 4 feet tall, with disproportionately large heads, quite spindly arms and legs, essentially humanoid, but the most striking feature is large black almond-shaped eyes.
Disclosure is at hand. It is very close, and the American people need to prepare themselves very soon for an announcement from our government that there is, in fact, an extraterrestrial presence engaging this planet and the human race.
Today we have with us a group of students among America's best. To you, we say, we have only completed a beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
The reason for the denial was, number one, they didn't know if these were hostile and could we protect ourselves from them. Didn't want the Soviets to know, so they devised to lie about it and cover it up.
According to reports, a combined team of army and firemen removed something or someone from the crash wreckage and then took them to the local hospital.
So it turns out that if aliens ever show up here on Earth, little green men might be the least of our problems. A new study indicates that instead, they'll probably be more like super intelligent dinosaurs, as smart and as cunning as humans. As one scientist put it, we would be better off not meeting them. Sleep tight.
Fala, filho da puta! Calma aí, maluco. Porra, eu vou chocar o bicho, cara.
Have you ever wondered, how would it feel to be taken by visitors from another world, held without consent, without function, without control? Have you ever contemplated the fact that someday this could happen to you? Maybe it already has. And if it had, have you ever wondered, would you even remember? Over 100,000 abductions are reported each year, although the percentage of real abduction cases is low in comparison to the amount reported. The ones that are true and real, for some viewers, may be disturbing.
truth, one must question everything. UFO'S, join the search.